Hey there, Dane here from Start Here FM and Dane.io. Thank you for joining me today. So I want to talk about, I apologize, it's kind of late. I'm a little bit groggy, so I apologize for the video and audio and speech quality. But I just wanted to touch on a topic that I'm super interested in based on all the emails I received from people. So this topic is, how do you build a web app without knowing how to build one? How do you build, like, let's say you want to get a job. Well, or you want to level up. This is for beginners, right? Let's just keep this targeted at beginners. Let's say you want to get a job or a freelance client for the first time. Job, freelance client, and you've never had one before. What you need to do is you need to build a project first. And a project is, in my definition, since this is for web developers, a web application. How do you build, and I get this question all the time, how do I build a web application, Dane, if I don't know how to build one, right? So here I'm going to define this for you very simply. What you need to do is pick a top, so I'm going to give you a web application to build, and this is going to help illustrate my point here. So we're going to build a book library application. It's going to be a website that allows you to see books just like on Amazon, and you can rent them or buy them, and that's it. And maybe like create an account and maybe add books, right? So what we're going to do is, the way that we approach this, so this is our project. So the first thing that we need to do before we get our first freelance client or our first job is to have a project. In order to have a project, we have to have a goal, some kind of project definition, some kind of definition of a project. So we just defined it, a library app. So that's your project. Now, how do you do this? How do you build this application without any experience or context of, what the hell it is that you want to build? How do you do this? So the first thing is draw it out on paper. We call this a low fidelity mock-up. Draw it out on paper, boom, boom, boom. It's pencil, just pencil or pen. We call it low fidelity, meaning not a lot of detail. Boom, draw a square. That's the web browser. This is what we do. More advanced people, don't feel like a beginner doing this. This is what advanced people do. Boom, you got the square on the piece of paper. Now think to yourself, okay, it's a book lending application, and this is why it's so important to figure out the goal, right? I gave you one, a book library website or whatever. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, it's a library website. Well, they probably have a list of books, right? So you land on the homepage and it's probably a long list of books. So it's a scrollable list of books that the library has available for you to rent or buy. So that's that makes sense. You think, okay, so you draw that, boom, boom, square list, drop down, scrolls, and then inside you put a book, another book, like that, right? Then let's say you're like, okay, well, there's a nav bar at the top. So you draw a nav bar at the top. There's a login and there's a user thing or something like that, my user account, registration, stuff like that. Normal nav bar stuff, links. So you've got the nav bar and you've got this center area where there's books. Now let's say you want to click a book because you want to rent it. So you click a book and then you see the book has like the image. So you draw another box. So this is a new page. You get a new page out. Anytime you have to click in the website, you want to get a new page. So you get a new page, draw a square, boom. Then on this page, it's the book details page. We call it the details page, right? The book details page. You see the book, and then there's some text about the book, and then you see a big ass button, rent or buy. Rent, let's just say rent, right? Like it's a library or lend or something like that, whatever we want to call the button. So you have these two pages, right? Let's go back to page one. Look at page one, and this is kind of cool. You should maybe do this exercise with me. I'm not doing it, I'm kind of describing it, but you could do it with me. Go back to page one, and in fact, actually, pause the video here. Stop the video, boop, and go do that, because the more you take action, the more it ingrains a knowledge in your brain. It's called kinesthetic learning. Trust me, it's great. So pause the video, go draw a very quick website that I just described to you with the 2 pages, and then start the video again. Okay, so starting the video again right here, I hope, after you've got your pages drawn. Now let's go back to page 1. Here on page 1, we've got a square for the website, we've got a nav bar, and we've got a list of books. So let's think to ourselves, right? Let's just use logic, right? How could we build this if we don't understand anything about web development yet, right? We don't really understand a ton. How is it that we could build this? Well, what if you like modeled tutorials, and I'm kind of trying to pretend I'm thinking as you would be. What if you modeled tutorials to do the website? Okay, well that makes sense. You could model tutorials to do the web application. But the problem is you're not going to find a tutorial that's like build a library app, right? You're probably never going to find a tutorial that's exactly what you want, right? That's a huge thing. You're never going to find a tutorial that's exactly the application that you want. So, okay, well, what if we deconstruct the application into subunits? And those subunits are tutorials in and of themselves. And then we execute on those tutorials and then combine the application into one, right? Let's say there's a third page. So everything I just said is valid. Let's say there's a third page we add. There's a contact button on the nav bar. You click it. There's a big ass Google Maps and the location of the office. Whatever, I don't know. The location of the library on the map, right? Google Maps, boom. Okay, so we've got these 3 pages. Page 1, list of books, nav bar. Page 2, book details page, image of the book, description, buy button, nav bar. Page 3, Google Maps integration, and pinpoint of the location. So what if each of these pages was different tutorials in and of themselves? So what if the first page, so the first page being let me slightly tilt this up. There we go. So the first page was the list of books. So the list of books, that is kind of like a blog post list, is it not? The list of books, right? It's kind of like a list of blog posts, meaning it's kind of like a blog post index page, right? That's kind of true. Well, then what if I click a book? Well, that's kind of like a blog post page, a blog post page. Okay. Well, then what about the buy button? Well, that's kind of like an e-commerce tutorial. How to add a buy button to a Rails app or insert your language or framework, right? Well, then what about the contact page? What is that? Well, that sounds to me like a tutorial called how to integrate Google Maps APIs on your website, or how to put a Google Maps on your website, or how to put a Google Map on your website, right? So do you see what I'm getting at here? We're trying to deconstruct the site into tutorials and then do all those tutorials and then combine them together. This is how to build your first web app. This is how I built my first web app and got my first client. It was a very cheap client. As a beginner, your clients are not going to be the most expensive, right? And we're going to go into depth on other videos on how to get clients or my strategies. But in this video, I just wanted to touch on when you're looking at getting your first client or your first job, you have to have these projects. And everybody's like, I don't know how to do projects because I don't know anything. And if I don't know anything, how can I make projects? And then I can't get a job, and the job so it's this never-ending cycle that's somewhat negative. So just alleviate that by taking ideas. You could use the idea I just gave you, or make up your own idea, draw it out, figure out what tutorials it can be broken down into. Then simply go out and find those tutorials and execute them. And then as you're doing them individually, you'll kind of learn, the hardest part is combining them all. sometimes. So like for instance, if you have a Rails app and you need to add a custom complex relationship to the database and it's your first time ever, you might Google, like let's say there's a employer and he has to have many employees or something. You might Google how to do a database relationship in Rails. And so you have to take that tutorial and kind of combine it into your Rails app. So do you see what I'm getting at here? Take everything that you don't know how to do and just don't worry about it. Who cares? Instead, all of those things, just Google tutorials on how to do them and then combine all those tutorials together to one application. I've done this successfully for many clients. And in fact, today, I had a person approach me for a web. I actually had a great live streaming application client approach me last week. That's a different story. But I had a client approach me this week for some kind of technology that I've never heard of before. And if I were to say yes to that gig, which I wouldn't, because that wouldn't be super responsible to do. But if I did want to say yes to that gig, I would basically be doing tutorials for the first week, right? Just to kind of learn. And even me as a senior, so for you as a beginner, it's even more important. Trust me, it's even more important. So draw out the web app using the type of drawing that I presented in this video. Then from there, identify what tutorials this looks like. And the reason, and you have to do this after the Advanced Beginner Challenge. So my previous video, I went into the Advanced Beginner Challenge. You have to do this video after. And the reason is because the Advanced Beginner Challenge, you read and do 35 tutorials at minimum. And what that does is it gives you this context in your brain of like, what are tutorials talking about? What are they even doing? Then from there, when you start to draw your website, you start to be like, oh shit, that looks like that one tutorial. That looks like the one tutorial. This widget looks like this other tutorial I did. You'll start to make those connections. So trust me, this is all connected. This is a strategy that works, and it works flawlessly. But it's hard work, right? It works flawlessly if you work it hard. That's about as seriously as I can say it. It's worked for me very successfully, and I want it to work for you. So in this video, I'm not sure that I can really give you a great question like in the other videos, but in this video, I definitely want you to think, what is the website that I want to build? Do you want to take the website I gave you, the lending website, the book lending website? And tell me in the comments below, what is an idea? It doesn't have to be your final idea. You can think about this for a couple days or even a week. You can spend some time thinking about this. Don't wait too long though. Don't wait too long. If you've done the Advanced Beginner Challenge, jump right into this. Spend about a week thinking, what website do I want to build? What project? Draw out a bunch. Throw a bunch away, right? You should have a bunch of crumpled pieces of paper from drawings, low fidelity drawings. So comment below, what is the idea for the web application that you want to do? You can say, if it's my idea, you can say so. And if you don't yet have any idea, you're like, whoa, I know I don't want to do the library thing because that's not inspiring, but I don't really know what I want to do. Comment that. And the community and I will jump in and kind of help you think about different things to do. So just comment below in the YouTube and we'll be there to help you out. So thanks so much for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.